everybody. Welcome to the Teach and Learn Committee meeting. The time is now 6:01 p.m. Present at the meeting are committee members Joseph Lombard, committee member Sybil Allen, who we got from the board. Sorry, let me just go through this list. We've got, okay, just the three of us, I guess. We got also Mr. Young from the staff. We got Mr. Arnold from staff, Superintendent Testani, and Ms. Vajay and Mr. McLeod as well. Okay, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Can somebody give me the date on it? I think it's the 20th. I apologize. Dropped off my screen.
October 20th.
October 20th.
Okay, approval of minutes dated October 20th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, second. Well, does anybody find any issues or errors? Hearing nothing, I find no omission at all. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next up on the agenda is a special education update. Mr. Arnold, can you please take it away?
How are you guys?
Pretty good, thank you. And yourself?
So I put it on 2 pages this time. So we'll start with the first page. And that has to do with resource students who receive special ed transportation. It went up a little bit this month by 3 people. Do you see that on the top of the page?
Yeah, I saw it earlier, but my portal just dropped off. I'm trying to get it back.
Okay.
Can you can you see it and share the screen, or?
I will try to do it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
Okay, here it is. I got mine back.
All right, here we go. I'm going to share it.
Thank you. Okay, got it.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. So yeah, so on 10/20 we had 145, and now we have 148. Went up 3. And then if we look at CDAC, we currently have 4275. But that's not the final count because there are a lot of people who are not. So that's due on 12/5, and there's probably, I would say probably 200 people that have not had their annual and or reeval, meaning they're due from last year and they're going to be expired this year. So if we upload them, they're going to deny it and we have to hold the PPT. So we most likely.
Donald, I'm sorry. Before you continue, can you spell out the acronym CDAC, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's it's a
That's
special
right.
we report it to the state, and it's every special ed kid that we have in district.
Right. Okay. No, I just wondering what all in order. I got special education.
Yeah.
DAC. What's the DAC stand for?
Where do you see that?
CDAC.
It says- Yeah.
Oh, CDAC. It's a special education data accurate count.
Okay. Thank you.
It stands for CDAC.
Okay. Thank you.
So we've gone. We probably have maybe 200 more. I'm just guessing that we have to redo the IEP and then report it to the state. So, questions about that?
No, but just to back up a little bit on, you said
Yep.
additional 3 on transportation.
Yep. I don't know why, but so Angie, my secretary, just gave me that count.
Right.
So-
I'm just wondering, are any of us out of district special education students remote learning, or is it?
So
is it
I
stand to reason?
don't even really count the out of district students because they all get transportation. And if you're autistic, then you get transportation. So those are not counted. These are resource students who get. So these are in district, and the charter schools have them, and so does Bridgeport Public Schools.
Okay, they're all receiving in-person services.
Yeah, yep.
Obvious. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you all set with the CDAC data collection?
Oh, yes. Anybody, any questions?
Rob, just
Yeah.
quick clarification, Rob. Could that increase in count be due to the fact that we have students that are staying till they're 22?
No, so those are already reported. So that will bring the number up again.
Okay, gotcha.
Because they're calling for PPTs, and we have a lot of 22-year-olds who are still in school. And last year they would be out of school at 22. So I
Gotcha.
guess they did that. I mean, the link is right up there. So,
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yes, okay, I guess you could continue now.
Okay. So this is where we are with evaluation. So we were at 581 and 361. Now we're down to 272 and 62. But they might have been held. They just aren't finalized in IP Direct. So until they're finalized, I can't pull them that they're done. So we're probably a lot lower than that, but I don't want to make any guarantees. So, and then we have a ton of due for this current year. So. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
Mr. Lombard, you got something?
no question.
Okay, I'm sorry. It looks like you had some.
So this is kind of where we are right now. I mean, right now there's 12 evals that were done this year, new evals. Last year we have 543, 36 were completed beyond the timeline, and then we still have about 55 remaining. So that's why I pulled that, and it doesn't match with the number. So there probably are some that are finalized, but so there's a lot of complications to it. So if they don't fill out the process log in IEP Direct, then it doesn't register with me. So I've sent a bunch of emails to everybody.
So are you, excuse me, but are you saying that there are roughly 543 students in this cluster?
So there's 543 plus the 36, and then 55 remaining evals that are not done yet that need to be reported from last year, and it needs to be certified by, it was supposed to be Monday, but we have a lot of evals to do. So the state said that they're going to, I mean, I think our district resource group sent actually an email to Mike, and they want information about special ed because I think they're in the same boat that we're in. So does that make sense?
Well, if you say so. I'm not sure of the timelines and things like that they have to be reported. So
yeah, so
I wouldn't know.
This was due on the 15th. But
15th of this month?
So Monday it was due.
Okay.
But I called the state, and I think a lot of the and even so district resource group, we're in the lowest one, but even districts like North Haven and Ansonia, they're in a higher one than us, and they're not done yet either. So.
And so what's your extension time on this
So
reporting?
I told Laura that we'll get the EVT. Laura Guerrera is the person at the state, and I called her and said we'll have the EVTs by next Thursday. We'll upload them and certify them, and that's just my best guess. But the CDAC data is not due until 12/5, but we always are late, and I'm not. I mean, it's just the way that Bridgeport works. So I told her we'll have to her before Christmas.
Okay, thank you.
Does this affect any funding or anything that we get from the state?
No.
Does this late reporting affect any monies that we are getting for, or do we get money from the state?
We get money for every special ed kid that we have. That's why we want to be super accurate when we report them. So if we report more and there's not that, I mean, if we report, 700 evals and we have 800, we lose $100 people of expense. So they would give us more money for 800 than 700.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let the record reflect Chairman John Weldon has joined the meeting.
Aye.
This is out of district placements. Obviously, the red zeros, we were close, so nobody went out. And then this month we had 4 people so far, and they go out of district, but they go to TUS, which is the university school, and it doesn't cost us anything because we prepay them. So, and that's their case monitored by the high schools.
So you don't have students out of district in residential?
No, we have no residential placements at all. I mean, we have a ton of students. You can see on the bottom there, 256 kids are out of district, and that changes probably like every day. We bring a kid back or send a kid out, and a lot of times the court places them, DCF places them. They'll place them in like, Torrington, and it's too far for them to come to our school, so they go to a private school up there. And that changes very, very, very frequently. So
I've got a question
you.
about the university school count.
Yeah.
They do dual special ed and also exposed students, correct?
they do. Yep.
And
So
what's
these
the
are just
break- what's the
special ed.
breakdown?
These are not
Those
the
are just the special ed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just special ed. Okay, thank you.
yeah.
We're not doing any expelled students this year because of the remote option. That's what we're choosing to do.
All right, thanks. That's awesome.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's something we could look at going forward as well, if that would be an acceptable option for expelled students.
It's more than an acceptable option. It is a extremely viable option that going forward we'll be able to provide, and we'll be able to monitor. We'll be able to control curriculum and instruction. So this is an opportunity from this COVID that we can get some sort of silver lining of.
Awesome. Thank you.
One question I'd like to ask, do we have students that are, or do they come and go in the juvenile system?
Yeah,
So
so
They are housed in the juvenile system?
yes, the juvenile detention center is run by the Bridgeport Public Schools. Obviously they're not all Bridgeport kids that are in the facility. This year numbers are way down from years past due to COVID. The court system has placed very few kids at the detention center. At last count, I believe we had 21 kids that were currently in the facility that we were educating. One of the units is what they call is a long-term unit that's there, and there's 12 students.
Is that Long Lanes?
No,
Would that
that's
be
here.
Long Lanes?
No, that's here in Bridgeport, so that's down in downtown. So
Oh,
that
okay.
unit is 12 kids. And then the other 3 units made up the other 9. So enrollment is down at the detention center.
Thank you.
So we have a total of 21?
That was at last count, but that, other than the long-term placements that are there, the others are very fluid. So they're there until they go to court. On average, they're there about 2 weeks. Some are a little bit more, some are a little bit less.
Thank you.
And that's it.
You can continue. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a complete presentation. Do we have any open complaints or
No,
issues? None at all.
no open complaints. Thank God, right?
And how are we doing with handling IEP, the meetings and all that online? Is that going?
Yeah,
Does it need improvement?
We're actually down 17 certified special ed teachers. It's not, so what we've done was, I told you in the last meeting, we've hired, Marlene has agreed to hire at $38.50 an hour for 3 hours a clip every day. And so that's how we're getting a lot of these evals done, because people are coming in after work, doing the evals and submitting a timesheet with the SACIT on it, so I can check and make sure that they uploaded it. And then, Yeah, and then we also hired a retired bilingual teacher. So she's coming into our office and doing bilingual evals at one of the conferences in City Hall. So
Awesome. Do we have any breakdown as if these evaluations done in this manner is less costly than utilizing full-time staff?
I think we're looking for special ed teachers, but we can't find them. Like, yeah, we have postings and nobody even applies to them. So I can't make that estimate because we're paying them, figure $40 an hour times 3 hours, that's 120. I don't.
Yeah, I ask.
And how many days do they work?
Well, some people I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I was asking just particularly because teachers' time is best spent in a classroom, one, and PPTs and all that. That's not really classroom engagement. So if it's cost effective to have somebody else step in there, this might be something we may want to look at in the future.
Yeah, so we have a couple people who do like 3 or 4 evals a week, and then some people don't do any. So it ranges across the district. So.
Okay, thank you, Miss Allen.
Yep.
He answered.
Okay.
And just to be clear, Mr. Sokolovic, our shortened remote day on Wednesdays will give opportunities for teachers, especially special education teachers, to hold more PPTs, to be able to catch up on paperwork so that we can be in compliance with the state of Connecticut and also be able to service our students and our families. So that built-in time is going to be extremely helpful.
Awesome. And these because I'm still find it refreshingly strange that we have no out of compliance at this time. Is that a function of leniency from the state or something else we're doing extra correctly?
Well, I think it's because we were on COVID for so long. So I mean, people they have really nothing to complain about. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, I mean, we do make mistakes. I'm not going to say we don't, but so far we haven't been called out on any of them. So.
Awesome.
Well, and I'm also going to contribute that to the staff as well. The support and specialized service folks are working extremely well together. It's a cohesive group. Mr. Young, Mr. Arnold, Ms. Aponte, Ms. Roca Reyes, and then the 3 supervisors, Ms. Lindley, Mr. Gretkowski, and Lucas. I mean, it's a really good team. They work well together. They support each other's weaknesses. So I got to give them a lot of credit, and they work extremely hard.
We do have a great team this year. So.
Awesome. So does anybody else have any questions for Mr.
Oh, and Ms. Rivera as well. I don't want to leave out speech and language.
No.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Mr. Arnold, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're free to leave the building. Enjoy the rest of the day. Okay, that brings us up to our next item on the agenda. A review of social and emotional learning in the time of COVID and how students are coping. I believe that's what Mr. Young is here for. Hello, Mr. Young. How are you?
That is correct. So I'm going to share my screen because I made a little PowerPoint for you.
Thank you.
Where is it? Here we go. All right. So, I was talking about social work. So I'm going to start the slideshow from the beginning. So social workers have been doing a great job all year round. They had to then pivot to working with kids, both in-house and at home. So it's difficult for them to make that change, but they're doing a great job doing that. So I just wanted to go over the social work roles because I think that some people think they know what social workers do, but they really don't. So social workers do assessments and diagnosis for students for special education services, crisis intervention, so that when we ever have a shooting or something happens with something in the community, we then send social workers to the school for crisis intervention to help that social worker out if people are impacted by something that happens in the community. They navigate systems for students and parents and families They coordinate with teachers. They also provide intervention and debriefing for bullying. So if we have a case of bullying and someone's put out for bullying, when they come back, they're debriefed by the social worker or a support staff member to make sure that we can ensure that this is not going to continue. And also we work with the survivor of the bullying as well. We don't call them victims anymore, they're survivors. So they also provide that service. They provide individual group counseling with students experiencing mental health and education, social difficulties, and they eliminate all other mental health and social barriers that are impacting learning. The main goal of social work is to eliminate any barriers that impact student learning. That's their main focus. Any questions on that slide? Well, before I go? Okay, so Bridgeport Public Schools has 39 social workers. We need a whole lot more, but we have 39, one of which is directly related to teen pregnancy. 10 are in the high schools. There's also a part-timer in the high school, and 75% of them cover more than one school. So they're spread across the district. So issues created by the pandemic. The adults in our community have lost employment. A lot of them, we're getting a lot more homelessness. My numbers have been skyrocketing with that. So loss of residents. They've also lost some loved ones during this time. And the big one is a loss of sense of safety and security. With kids and teens, if they lose that safety and security, that's a big deal for them, and they don't have what's called homeostasis, where they feel grounded in the world, and that could be an issue for them, and that's where the social worker steps in on that. So the negative impact of things that were already there that got exacerbated by the COVID-19 with racism, inequality, poverty in our neighborhoods, abuse and neglect, with both emotional and physical. That's a big deal because during times of stress, more people are more apt to have domestic violence in their homes. That's why it's important for us to keep doing our counseling at home while the kids are not in school so that we can prevent some of these things and to intervene if we see signs of these things happening in the home. There's also violence in the community with gunfire and fights and different groups going after each other. So we want to maintain that close relationship with our kids, and instability in home. All of these things taken together fuel toxic stress in our students. And that's what social workers are here to combat during COVID-19. So students' mental health during COVID. These are the three biggest things that are affected by COVID right now. Anxiety is a big one, stress, and it looks different in kids, and depression. Any questions? I talk really fast, I'm sorry. So anxiety in students look like this. So sometimes in the younger grades, being afraid to be away from their parent, hiding behind the parent's leg when you bring them into school, or shy coming on to the teams, having extreme fear of certain situations and things, being very afraid of school or other places where other people are, so social anxiety, being very worried about the future and about bad things happening. This is one of the major ones because this is what COVID is all about. A lot of kids don't know where to put this pandemic. They can't wrap their mind around it, and it's up to the adults to help them with it, but it's hard for some adults to explain to the kids. So you can only imagine how a kid can be concerned about our future with this. And having episodes of sudden, unexpected, intense fear. So these are like our panic attacks. A lot of our kids have these panic attacks.
Yep. Excuse me just a moment. Have we had to remove any children from their home and institutionalize them?
So we don't remove kids from homes, but we have had cases where kids are on remote, where the social worker or even the classroom teacher has noticed something going on in the home. So they would call DCF, and then kids have been removed in that way. And we've also had parents refer kids to our psychiatric units in the hospitals or to Westport. I forget the name, it's not coming to me right now, but we've had kids that have been institutionalized that way because of their mental health issues. But
is that the one in Westport?
Yes.
Is that the one in Westport that they use?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So stress in students. This is what stress looks like in students. They complain of appetite issues, stomach aches, or upset stomachs, or loss of appetite. The big one is I have a headache and it's unexplained by any other means. The sleep cycle is a big one. Those are like somatic issues where they fall asleep in class, or fall asleep while they're on teams, or they stay awake all night long, or have frequent nightmares. That's a big one. And bedwetting is a big one as well, because some kids revert back to the stage before them when they are traumatized. So they'll go back. A kid that has successfully conquered toilet training will go back to soiling themselves and bedwetting. So these are the signs we look for when kids are reverting back because of stressful situations. And depression. So feeling sad, hopeless, irritable all the time, not wanting to do things that they ordinarily would have done that were fun for them. Showing changes in eating patterns, sleeping patterns, energy, and having a hard time paying attention. These are all the signs of kids that are experiencing depression, and we have to encounter these things and help them to access the curriculum. Social work intervention. So what social workers do is called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's different from psychotherapy. A lot of people think that we do psychotherapy where people sit on the couch like olden days and they talk about their childhood. We don't do that. So what we do is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is in the here and now. You can go to psychotherapy outside of school. We don't have that luxury of doing the psychotherapy, uncovering those deep-rooted issues that you have. We deal with the here and now. We also are providing all of our social workers and school counselors with trauma-informed school training. So they're informed about their own implicit bias and how a lot of us bring that to our kids. So we're making them aware of their implicit bias, and they're more trauma informed and know that the kids have been experiencing trauma. Therefore, sometimes they're not accessing the curriculum because they have to get all that stuff out of the way before they can learn to read and write. Social emotional learning we're doing with the kids. So a lot of our social workers are starting off their session with the mood meter to ascertain where the kids are emotionally before they dive into activities surrounding self-esteem issues, and I'm assessing the physical and emotional safety of the kids. So when we're tuning into the kids' homes, the social worker is always surveying the area, seeing if there's anything going on with these kids that can be emotionally or physically, safety-wise, is an issue for them. And we use Maslow's hierarchy of human need. It's just something that all of us use in social work. And I believe that's on the next slide. Yes, there's Maslow. So if you look at the bottom of this triangle, the first three items, the physiological safety and love, are things that we as educators want to do with our kids. Otherwise, they can't get to self-accusation. So once these kids don't have those things at the bottom, they don't have the foundation to be able to be present to learn. So it's the social workers. Go ahead.
How long are these youngsters exposed to this all the way from kindergarten through high school?
Oh, yes. Well, we as humans go through all of these things.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up.
Oh, it's showing them having a bad network. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. Yes, I do.
Okay. So all kids and humans need the first basic building blocks, which is the bottom of the screen. And then comes the safety and love and belonging. This is where our families, some of them are having a tough time with. So the safety part would be, do we have food insecurity, home insecurity? Are we homeless? Are we worried about being homeless? So if that is shaken there, kids will be more apt not to be present to learn. And then it moves up to the love and belonging. They get that from their teacher. That's why it's important for us. And I'm happy that Mike Tastani's ideas about getting us back into school is important, because a lot of these kids get their safety and love and belonging actually from the social worker, from the teachers, from the principal with the tap on the head, welcome back kind of thing. And so if they don't have that, sometimes they're not getting it anywhere else. So it's important for us to try to do those things, even virtually, to show the kids that we're still here for you. And with that, they develop a self-esteem. And with that, they get more morality, creativity, and problem-solving skills. And that's where we want as social workers to get our kids to be, at the top of this. So
how many social workers are in our school system?
39.
Thank you.
Yep. So social workers use what's called mindfulness on some students, and mindfulness can be used, it's a new thing, where mindfulness can be used for a variety of things, but it helps the kids to stop, slow down, and understand and be centered with themselves, because a lot of us, even as adults, need to be doing some of these things to slow ourselves down. And especially with COVID, it made us slow ourselves down when we were all locked down. It made us slow ourselves down and reevaluate what's going on. Well, we try to teach this to kids, to slow down and to think about where you are and be centered in where you are, and to slow it all down. So with elementary school students, we do got what's called guided meditation, where we bring the kids through a story where they can imagine being through that story, and they'll take them from all of the things I reported earlier about all those things that are going on in their life, where they can just be centered and feel safe in that moment that we're teaching them the mindfulness. Then for middle school students, we enhance that guided imagery, where we talk about different things that are more akin to them, and not more of the fantasizing things, but more of a real life situations where you're guiding them through real life things. And then in high school, we focus more on the breathing for them, just being centered with yourself and stopping and smelling the roses, if you would say. If there's a need, if the needs are not being met, so if a social worker is doing distant learning or in-person learning and they feel that the needs are not being met either at home or even in school, then we refer that kid to outside services to do that psychotherapy, to do other things that we can't do in school because of time and resources. And if all else fails, if there's a safety reason, we do call DCF for families. We've had to do that a number of times, even this year with the remote learners, because they are having difficulty. And when we see that, when we're tuning into homes, we are obligated to turn that into DCF. Now, we also take care of the adults. And the adults, we go through a bunch of steps with the social workers themselves about taking care of themselves, because if they don't take care of themselves, they cannot take care of our kids. So we start with themselves. We walk them through a bunch of different things about getting in tune with yourself. You have to be aware of your own emotions and that implicit bias that you may bring to it. We focus on facts with the social workers. This is where we are. The kids are going to be on distant learning. This is what we're going to do for them. We control the amount of information that we allow them to tell kids. Sometimes people think that more information is great for kids, and that's the opposite. Sometimes we do that for our own edification, but not for the students themselves. Sometimes we try to provide them with information that they don't need, that's overwhelming for them. So we try to teach the social workers to not give too much information, but just give just enough. And we tell social workers, don't be afraid to say no. When you have decided you're at the top and you can't accept anymore, don't be afraid to say no, but talk to me about it and we can work something out. Be respectful to other people's decisions and be your best self that you can be. And you deal with your own anxiety, and then you can deal with the kids. So that's what we as social workers are doing for students.
I want to know, are these children ever released from these social emotional programs that they attend? Do they ever become stabilized?
You're talking about in school themselves, like, so if a kid is in social work group.
Yes.
And they're,
I'm saying, is there ever a time that they graduate from these programs to, from one program to another, and say that they've reached a level of sufficiency?
Yes. So each kid, most of the kids that are seen by the social worker have IEPs, and they come with goals. And so once the kids fulfill those goals, then we move on to the next goals. And once they fulfill all the goals, and they do, some of them don't require social work anymore. We just do what's called consultation with them. So not all kids have social work for the rest of their life. And if they're in SRBI.
So this comes with a step method. They go from step to step.
Yes. So if they're in SRBI, they're usually in a 6-week program to develop data and to get data on these students. And sometimes they never reach special ed. But if they're in special ed, we develop the goals at our meetings, and then we decide at the end of the year whether they met the goals or we need to change those goals for the student. And it's at that point we decide whether or not they still need social work services.
Thank you.
So we've been successful in graduating a lot of students.
Mm-hmm. Is that all, Ms. Allen?
That's all for now. I mean, I have dealt with some of these things, but I
know I
just wanted to know.
worked with you. I worked with you, Sybil Allen, at Reed School. So yes, we worked together.
It's the same thing.
Uh,
Yeah, the segue for someone. What Miss
I'm
Allen
still
was
the same inquisitive person.
I know. I've noticed.
saying. And I'm going to segue off what Miss Allen was saying, and bring up the SEL, social emotional learning, is something that continues throughout the students' lives and continues on, and it's even useful for teachers, for superintendents, for board members, and we all have to grow. And and a lot of those things you mentioned, we all have to take into account ourselves as adults. We're giving them the tools to think. Okay, now I got a couple of questions myself. Sorry, Mr. Benahan is in the meeting. I see your hand up. I'll get to your question afterwards. Okay. My questions. All right. How many reports have we had this year as compared to last year to like DCW, right?
So DCF. So I don't have the numbers but I can get those numbers. So what happens is each social worker, each teacher, or each principal can call DCF at any time. We've never compiled those numbers, but I can get those numbers. And then, so we've never compiled them. I was never asked to do that, but we can compile those numbers and find what we have now.
And it might be something good to track. And I know you're probably aware of the other committee we got. That might be something we want to start tracking by demographic as well, just see if we see any trends anywhere or what have you. And also, is there any additional training to recognize signals of abuse at home via Teams?
So that's something so what we've been working on. So I provide the social workers with training every month. So this month we were working on functional behavioral assessments. So that's a whole different thing. But we periodically do different trainings on abuse and neglect. Every staff member is trained on mandated reporting. And so they do know signs of that. So if there's a telehealth way that we can see signs, that's something I can research. We've never even thought about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. That is something I can look into because it is different from in-person learning versus kid being at home. So yes, it is different, but the same signs would still be there. So you would look for agitation, you would look for flinching if the parent comes in the room, you would look for so many different different things that a kid would do if they're being under pressure by an adult in their life.
Right, and that brings the importance of keeping the camera on as well during learning, so you could actually see the physical manifestations. Manifestations,
yes.
Thank you.
But sometimes don't. Sometimes the camera is not on, only because it's the way in which they reach the student. So sometimes the student have technological issues. We have Mr. Testani has worked on that, so all the students have devices. But in the spring, a lot of our students were called at home instead of the telehealth that we were doing now. So I'm glad that we have devices. So yes, we can keep the camera on now, but it was a problem in the spring.
Awesome, man. Oh, and all those signs, and just okay, the final actual point, all those signs of depression and stress in students and all that. That goes for the adults in the building too. Have we had? Do we do any interventions with maybe teachers or superintendents or board members?
No, we don't, because so social workers are not. A lot of people think that the nurse and social workers can help adults, but they really can't. So the social workers are there for the students. We do bring in EAPs. Like when I was talking about crisis intervention, we do bring EAP in with us if there's a death of a student or something like that to deal with the adults. Social workers are not allowed to provide counseling for adults at all.
So there has been a 10-part series paid for through the Dalio folks statewide for teachers and any other staff members to receive social emotional support throughout the school year, as part of Mark Brackett and his ruler program. So that has been sent out to all our staff, and they are encouraged to participate if they feel the need or just for professional growth opportunity.
All right. Well, okay. One more question. I just forgot about. Is there we're talking about trauma, and when we talk about trauma, we talk about mostly mostly hard trauma comes into head, shooting, stabbings, loss. But what about the trauma of maybe finding out a classmate has COVID or a teacher may have COVID? Are we doing any counseling around that?
Well,
Any issues?
when people speak about trauma, there's different aspects of trauma. There's trauma that's pervasive trauma, and then there's acute trauma. Acute trauma is something that happens right away, something like you would be talking about, that acute hears about someone having COVID and they don't know where to put that and what to do with that. Yes, the social worker would work on something like that. There's pervasive trauma, or what's called chronic trauma, which is not something that a social worker should be working on, because that is something that needs to be worked on with psychotherapy, something that should be worked on outside of a school. That is something that you don't want to open up a can of worms with that, because then you don't know how to put it back on, because we don't have the time to devote to dealing with that pervasive chronic trauma. But we do refer out for that.
It'll be recognized and referred out.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to the committee members for questions, and then I'll get to you, Ms.
And
Allen.
excuse me, one
Lombard?
moment.
All right, Ms. Allen.
The school system picks up this outside counseling? Do we, or their medical insurances pick it up?
The medical insurance.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lombard?
Yes. Aside from the students with IEPs, is any of these services made available to the general student population at this time from the social workers?
So yes and no. So before COVID happened, we did have a group of students that were regular ed that was seen by the social worker. We have great Carly Reyes, who's a great coordinator for school counseling. She's beefing up that counseling portion of their profession so that they can see those regular ed students, because of the a lot of our kids were at home and some were in school. The hours got cut short, so the social worker had to create a schedule for them, the in-person students, the out-of-school students. So it's hard for them to then see regular ed students. But so you're correct that we do see regular ed students that are problematic students that have issues that we need to see. But as of right now, we have not. Because we're all going fully remote, we probably can pick those students back up. But when we go back to the hybrid model, it's going to go back to us not being able to do that because of time constraints. So it's going to be hard for us.
So I was wondering if maybe Mr. Testani also could talk to this. Are there just your services that you offer to students who are in crisis or need assistance? Some of them seem like things that would be good for everybody. You know, the mindfulness and so. Are there programs in place already? I'm just not aware of for all students.
There are programs, but as Mr. Young mentioned at the beginning of his presentation, we don't have nearly enough mental health service providers in our schools. We could use an easy dozen social workers tomorrow. We definitely need more school counselors, quality school counselors. Those have been dissipated over the years with budget cuts. We are at, I said this in a meeting this morning with the state of Connecticut. We're operating on a shoestring at a time where, we need a life raft, and hopefully people recognize the good work that we've done here during the pandemic. I think they are at the state level, and my hope is that it pays off with some additional funding to help us support our kids going forward, because we know that there's issues that are going to be presented when we're back here full time. We just don't know how great they are yet, and that's going to be something that we'll uncover with time.
Right, but Mr. Testani also sent me I think he's the president of Child and Family Guidance Center. They want to partner with us to do some of those things that you're talking about, working with our students on those type of things that the social worker can't work on. So I just talked to them today, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Mr. Testani about it, but I will be. They want to partner with us to do that work you're talking about. So that'll be an extra hand for us to use.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Mr. Benahan, thank you for being patient.
That's okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Just for the record, I'm in your meeting from 6:07 before we have Mr. Wardner join with us. I just want to be sure you know that. But I have a question from Mr. Young. First of all, I have two questions for you, Mr. Young.
Mm-hmm.
When the teachers they know the kids is very stressful, depressed and study and everything, that the teacher are ready for to take care, this child and be sure they have the protocol and the process. And my second question for you is before you call DCF, because sometimes DCF I have really had experience with parents. Sometimes they work so terrible, and I would love us before we take care of this situation before if you have to call the CF. I understand that, so we can prepare much better with the parent and student before the CF. And my comment for you to start. Thank you for always you always give us a very good report, and you always ready for any answer. We appreciate that.
Why, thank you. So DCF, this is why every year we train every individual that comes in contact with students, because DCF should only be reported if there are serious allegations of abuse and neglect. So if a kid comes to school during a snowstorm and the kid doesn't have a coat on, the old thought process would be, oh my goodness, this kid's being neglected, call DCF. No, we'll ask a question. Do you have a coat? And then we'll go out and buy the kid a coat. So it's I think that the word serious was missing for a while, and a lot of people were calling for things that they should be calling for, but that comes with the training piece of it, that you need to know a little bit about cultural competence. You need to know what area we're living in. You need to know what our groups of families are going through. You need to know all of these kind of things and provide services before you jump to a government agency that could potentially cause more harm in a family than good. Because everybody thinks the DCF is just this great institution, but sometimes it can rip families apart unnecessarily. And so we then do our due diligence before we call DCF. Oh, absolutely. But I missed your first question.
The first question was, if we teach our social work, they are ready when the situation come out. Any students, they got stressed and depressed. All the social work, they're ready for do that action, right away, or have to go to process, or have to go to another person. That's why my question.
Oh, yep. So if there's an acute issue, so we have like a tiered approach. So the main goal of a social worker is to see the kids that are on their caseload. But if a potential issue comes up, that goes by the wayside, and they have to handle the crisis situation at hand right away. There's no process to it. If a teacher has a concern with a student, they get on it right away. There's no lag time in that. There's no forms you have to fill out. They just hit the ground running with that. So kids are being seen if they have an acute issue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Young. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem.
Chairman Weldon, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Young. Everything was. And does anybody else have any questions? Any final questions before I take a motion to adjourn?
No questions. If anyone needs the PowerPoint, I can send it.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn now, please.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, everybody. See you in a few minutes. Have a great night. Thank you, Mr. Young, for everything.
Thank you.
Again. All right, bye-bye.